Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Arboyd and I'm sitting here with Simon Piniel from Spin Animation. How's it going, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good, very good. Tell us about Spin Animation and what you do.
Yeah, Spin Animation, I'm just doing business as, not incorporated, so I am Spin Animation. Spin is a contraction of my name, Simon Piniel. And so I discovered animation in 96, 25 years ago. And that's from the first time I made a movie, I realized that's what I want to do. So then I finished film school and trained myself some more in animation. And been working in the industry for the last 21 years, really. And uh, so I get jobs from, creative agencies who have like big clients on their end. So they do like the campaigns and look for somebody to see their commercial through from beginning to end.
Oh, wicked. How did you were you always into art and then you decided to go into animation for schooling or?
Yeah, I used to draw a lot. I was kind of gifted as a kid, so I got always attention by drawing. So then I drew some more, obviously.
Yeah,
But I always was also into composing music and photography. So didn't really know what to do. I just went to art foundation, and then figured kind of like the what is that the area that encompasses most disciplines is kind of film, because
yeah,
like there you have sound, you have images, um, and then during this film class in Zurich in Switzerland, which was actually targeted towards like the author filmmaker, like
yeah,
the author filmmaker is the guy who writes the movie, who directs it, who produces it, kind of the does it all. So I then discovered animation because that was part of that education.
yeah,
So the problem was it was in the second year, and the program was 5 years long.
yeah.
So I had to look for ways to kind of push the education more towards animation. So that's how I had the idea of doing an exchange. There were no animation film schools in Switzerland at the time. So I heard about Vancouver because I bumped into some people who went to Vancouver Film School.
Yeah.
So I did a 2-semester exchange at Emily Carr, and that's how I first came to Vancouver.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's and obviously you see the how big the film industry is here when you moved
It's
over here,
incredible. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's acted a bit when a few years ago when the Canadian dollar was strong,
Yeah,
kind of on par with the US at one point.
yeah. I was like,
And then
yeah,
as
they
soon as
started
it
taking
went,
all their shows back and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And now everything's being produced in Vancouver. It's
yeah,
kind of the like in Europe, you have a similar situation with South Africa. I don't know if that's still going on, but it's the same time zone, so it's just cheaper production.
yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's so many movies, TV series, games, you name it.
Animation companies now too. From if you're an
Yeah,
animator, there's tons of companies that basically animate for huge cartoon shows out of the States that we've had a few people come in here that have animated for shows like the Ninja Turtles or Rick and Morty and
yeah,
just
yeah,
and it's big teams. Like I had a friend who worked for that company too, and he's a wrestler as well, but it's like they have teams of animators and they just have to take little parts, I guess, of each
yeah, yeah.
show and just
I mean,
do what they
I
do.
worked in those studios, right?
Yeah.
I mean, after finishing film school in 2000, and I worked in a company in Switzerland for 2D animation storyboards for 4 years, and then decided, hey, I want more. Uh, I want to learn more about animation. I didn't want to go to school again, so I just came to Vancouver to work in a cartoon studio
Yeah.
and worked on Ed and Eddie. That's a
Cool.
Cartoon Network show.
Yeah, I
Have
remember
you heard
that.
of it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think Aaron was a big fan actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, so I worked there for 3 years and
Cool.
in storyboards. I mean, storyboards meaning Since the show was actually animated in Korea, we did basically the whole kind of recipe for the movie. Storyboards can be very rough. I mean, it's just a guidance to where the camera is pointing, but in this case, we had to basically draw out all the poses of all the characters. So kind of posing and layout was in the storyboard.
Oh, cool. That's really cool.
So you had to be very specific and detailed too. So I learned a lot.
That's really cool.
And at the same time, I still got some jobs from Switzerland from my previous employer, and then previous colleagues, co-workers from that company went to other companies, and then those companies approached me. So then by the time I left the studio, I was basically 100% freelancer for Switzerland, and that's how it is today.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that. Like people, actually, you said South Africa earlier. Someone from South Africa that had a media company over there moved it over here and is still doing tons for them over there because you can work from different areas of the world on projects for different countries, and that's happening constantly. I think, especially now. Because people are working from home. You have people that worked in these different industries that lived in, like, let's say, the States that traveled back to their home countries and are working from there now, still doing the same work and Zoom calling all the time, right?
Globalism is well and alive, right?
Yeah.
So if I can work anywhere, why not work in the second most expensive place?
Yeah.
When it comes to real estate. I know somebody.
Yeah, and you're coming from Switzerland. That the whole thing about Vancouver that people try to sell Vancouver is our scenery and how beautiful the mountains are. And you're coming from Switzerland as like the Alps, so it's like selling the mountains to the Swiss. It's not that easy.
Yeah. No, but I mean, where I used to live in Switzerland, it wasn't as mountainous, right? I mean, we were in the hills.
Yeah.
So now here we got real mountains. I live at 300 meters elevation, and I cycle a lot. So it's going home is not quite as easy as in Switzerland.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was talking about real estate. I mean, and at that, I mean, actually, I have to say that real estate in Zurich is even tougher. I mean,
really?
Yeah, it's really you can't even find anything right here in Vancouver. You can always find something. You may not be able to pay it.
Yeah,
there's just nothing there.
Yeah, it only can grow so much too. They probably have a lot of competition in work too, right? In Zurich, if you're working in Zurich, there's only so much.
Yeah,
you can give out.
I mean, it's the topography, right? Because it's not sprawled out like that. I mean, the city is kind of contained in. Between hills and it's not that and they can't really build up because that's regulations. So it's very contained. So where were we? We were talking about.
You're talking about working and also still working, basically being able to become a freelancer and still work for those people you worked and made relationships with.
A buddy of mine was a little smarter. He immigrated to Thailand, so
party town.
So cheaper living.
Yeah, much cheaper living over there, and fun living, I guess. But yeah, when it comes to like animation, was there like either like something you watched or something that like you worked on when you were new to it that like really just made you feel like you had to do this, like really a certain show, anything like that?
Actually, no. It is just doing it.
Yeah.
I used to do some flip books as a kid. I had a phase where I did lots of flip books, and they never really worked for me. It was the magic moment was seeing the animation playback on a so-called line test system. So that was an Amiga 64, Amiga computers, they were better versed at, working with video, digitizing video. So it was just a 2-bit playback system, software that was used for so-called line testing, which is just seeing if the animation works. They used to be done on films in the back in the golden days of the Disney studios. They would do those line test reels and film, and then once a week you can go in the sweatbox and see with the whole studio how your animation failed, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's always great.
So, but yeah, the animation, the Amiga was allowed to, just scan the drawings one by one and then play them back in the order that you wanted. And all of a sudden it came to life, right? The
Yeah,
drawings came to life, and you could play around with the drawings and the timing of the animation and fine tune it, and that was really, um, yeah, that's when it clicked, because it it stands on its own. While when you have a flip book, it doesn't do that. You don't
yeah,
have the constant frame rate, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have to stop and go, and you are basically the projector. And that doesn't. It's completely different.
Now it was automated, and once you put it in, it was automated and did it by itself, really, right?
Yeah, it's really coming to life by itself, right?
Yeah, and that's a you. You
That's
said what year did you get into it?
That was 96.
That's like the boom of the new computer animation. Like basically, like what was Toy Story, one of the first major ones? That would have been like
Yeah, they
1996, I
they
think.
started. Yeah, exactly. That's when the
Pixar
the 3D animation kind of started
boomed,
taking
and it
off.
was like everything after that seemed to be computer animation. It was no, Disney was working with Pixar, and I don't did they run Pixar yet, or were they just working with Pixar?
No,
Forget.
that wasn't at that time. They
No,
much later they bought Pixar.
yeah.
Pixar was its own studio until, I can't tell you the exact year, but not until another 10 years.
Yeah, and they had like a great working relationship, obviously, with Disney to be bought by them later on. But just that I remember being a kid during that time, and it just all of a sudden went from like the look of Disney movies just changed drastically.
Yeah, but the first movies were a little,
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you remember the
like
show Reboot?
ants and that
Reboot.
sort.
It was a Canadian show called Reboot, and
Actually, no.
it was a Canadian
So TV
first
series.
yeah a cartoon series, and it was the first computer animated show in Canada.
Okay.
And you go back and watch it now, and it's so painful. I loved it as a kid. It was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, this is crazy. And now it's just
Yeah, the company I worked for in Switzerland between 2000 and 2004, they did a lot of 3D, high profile, watch advertisements, and that sort of thing.
yeah,
And, it wasn't, it was really, complex. And, I just could see, my fellow workers lose their hair over it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
100%.
wasn't too, I stayed out of it, but still,
You lost your
anyway.
hair though. All animations. It's a. I mean, if you were doing it all the way back to when you were doing flip books and stuff, there's patience. That is a ton of patience to keep going and build that flip book and draw the same image just a little bit different each time. It's practice. It's that whole practice makes perfect. Technically, that's what it is. It's practicing your drawing, and it's amazing. But you have to have a ton of patience to be able to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, for commercial animation even more so, right?
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, it does take some commitment, and but I but I on the other hand, I would put it differently. You can also condense, your work, you know.
yeah,
Um, well, I guess I can talk about a little bit about the difference between, TV series and commercials. Um, it's a completely different shoe, right?
yeah,
Because in TV series, TV series are essentially killing time to the next commercial. And in commercials, you basically condense, every second is valuable.
yeah,
More, I sometimes you have to tell a whole story in 7 seconds.
yeah.
So that's what I find fascinating. So to really get the most value out of each frame, so to speak.
Yeah, that's difficult. I know exactly how that is. Like trying to just make the most out of something so short, like anything captivating that you can get all your information across. You hear all the commercials all the time. That's like they have all their valid points really in keywords. Then at the end it's like because they had to get that in, but they had
Yeah.
no time
The
to do it.
disclaimer, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You have to
Disclaimers
just
like
crank it up.
may cause cancer, might kill you.
Yeah. Dismemberment.
Yeah, yeah, but they always like you have to use that time. Ads are money, literally. Like you want an extra second, that's money. That's
Yeah.
like a lot of money for everyone because that one extra second, animators have to take more time for that one extra second. Editors, whatever, every step is literally that 1 second is money. And you imagine
Yeah.
how much like I know as a business owner how much ads cost.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
So
crazy.
I also do explainer movies. I've been doing a lot of explainer movies
What's
ever
that?
since they weren't called that. Which those are the little movies for online businesses
Okay.
that basically describe their product, their business. You know, do how to ship a package
Yeah,
on
yeah,
some courier website and um, or yeah, describe anything.
yeah. Yeah.
So it can also be a little. I guess it kind of goes into little presentation movies. You can also say about companies.
Yeah, yeah, it's it. I find it's funny. Like animation can be so like obviously you're explaining it, but it can be so vast with what it can be and what style it is and what you're doing to like
Yeah,
what you're working
I
on
mean,
TV shows.
animation is a technique,
Yeah,
right? It's not a genre.
yeah, yeah,
Brad Bird almost lost it as some, Oscar presentation, I think,
yeah,
because it was they talked about the animation genre, right? Right there, they always have the different movie genres. There's
yeah,
mystery, and there's action, and there's romance, and there's animation.
yeah.
But animation is just a technique how to do any of all that.
Yeah, yeah. An animated movie can be an animated comedy. It can be an animated
Exactly.
romance. It can be an animated horror, which are very entertaining in my opinion. But it's yeah. I think in the beginning it was. I think now more so because they're collaborating both realism with animation,
Yeah,
like everything.
yeah, exactly. I mean, now animation can be special effects.
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of blends over, right? Is it you can make a live action movie with that is really heavily on special effects. It can be like 50% animation through the movie,
yeah,
right?
yeah. A full movies filmed in a green screen studio, the whole
Yeah,
things, and they look immaculate. Like just the
like Life of
animation.
Pi, the
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of thing, right?
I wasn't like even a lot of Mulan, the new recent Disney movie. They did a lot in a studio because they had to make it look just like old China, I think, and they used the studio in Vancouver,
Hmm.
from what I understand. And
Oh, this is the remake. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Disney's just
I mean,
running
this
out
the
of
network.
ideas. I mean,
That network, the Disney Plus, once they announced that, it's like, how do we just create all the content, and it's gonna. I think. I mean, they're
yeah,
going the Netflix route, right?
just
Netflix.
going, just use the microwave
Yeah, yeah.
and cook up some old
Well, I
stories.
mean, what do you think? Netflix probably has, I'd say, half of their titles are successes, and probably half aren't. They're
Yeah,
probably this just getting the content out, and they get hits every now and then. Like, in
yeah,
what was the hit last year that shouldn't have been a hit? Tiger King. Like, it's just like the shows that they probably spend a ton of money on. Not all of them are hits.
yeah.
And then you have a show like Tiger King that's like reality TV that costs them barely anything to shoot, and
Uh,
everybody at the beginning of COVID is watching that garbage. But yeah, I just I love animation. Like you can't even define that because it's so broad. Like, but I never had the patience or like I just like I don't know. Now let's use the word patience a lot, but to keep going with it because we get frustrated. I'm kind of I don't know what the word would be. Maybe ADD. Maybe I'm a little bit attention deficit that like I can never concentrate and do it, but I have so much appreciation for it, and I think it is like it's I have so much respect for anybody that creates a profession out of passion for art, if that makes sense. Like I
yeah,
just that's why I appreciate what you do because and I was a musician young when I was young. I went to school for music production and knew how hard it was to make money doing so. That I had to kind of go do the 9 to 5 work and like kind of just have my side passion projects.
yeah,
But people that can actually take their passions and things they like and go and create work out of it for life. I have so much respect for that because yeah, it's a grind in the beginning. I can imagine it was a pretty big grind for you getting involved in that industry in the beginning, like especially moving your life over here.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually pretty easy because I had that, first job as a jump board, like I said, because when I left the company, they just kept coming back to me as a freelancer.
Yeah,
So I built the client basis from there. Um, but yeah, since then things have changed as well. Because some companies started doing things more in-house. So, and then I got involved in other companies because of some connections I had.
yeah,
Yeah, what I find fascinating about animation, it's not just art.
yeah,
You have to have that imagination to uh, create something that isn't real, right? But then on the other hand, you have to be a bit of an engineer to figure out how to achieve it.
yeah.
Um,
Science too, right? It's almost like science behind it. It's almost,
physics, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you need to know how things behave. Sorry about
it's
that.
all good. Yeah, it's I. There's so much behind it. It's just funny. Like I'll bring this up because I will, but like pro wrestling, that's what I did for years, and everybody calls it fake. But I say there's a science to it. That's what I like to say because it's like live action stunt work, but
Mm,
there's science to it. There's a science behind being able to drop on your head and not get hurt. The people don't realize that it there's no faking that, right?
yeah,
So like knowing all the steps that go behind animation, most people just think, oh, they just create it or they draw it, and that's the step. That's all there is to them. But to an animator, you know all the crazy, like all the background steps to everything
yeah,
and how it takes many different skill types, right? You can't just be an amazing artist and succeed in animation. It's not the same thing.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, what I also like about it is that I'm a one-man show, and I really love doing the whole process, right?
Yeah,
Um, I'm basically a filmmaker at heart, like the author filmmaker that I was talking about.
yeah,
So even if it's just an explainer movie, you know, I it's still a movie to me. So I don't work with templates. I always do original. I start fresh from the start. There's a lot of companies that do explainer movies with a template. They start out like, this is Paul. He da, 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 da,
uh,
da, da, and this is why. So now he realizes he can do this much better with our product. So they just follow this pattern, and they have basically a stock of different puppets that they can, customize a little bit at best. And everything's flat. But I like to really treat every movie as a movie. And so I do the storyboards, the animation, the editing, and the soundtrack up to the delivery, right?
yeah,
So I like working all those disciplines.
yeah. And depending on the people you're working with, like I find like templates aren't going to work for everybody because there's like different depending on what you're promoting. It's going to be a different audience to capture, so you're going to have to do a different route in how you do it. Um, we've noticed that like just some of our marketing and just how we create it's like videos and stuff and put it out. Depending on the website or social media app we're posting it on, art is almost reacted to better on things like Instagram, where it's just like some of our stuff caters to that, and then it gets no response on, let's say, LinkedIn, but and vice versa. Like LinkedIn will have the more um, professional looking videos, more business minded. When the people on Instagram don't want to see that, they're more in it for like more like artsy, hip, like I don't know how to. I'm not good with lingo, but just it's different. Your audience is different, and the company you should never follow just a template for every company or person you're
Yeah,
working with. It doesn't match them.
yeah. I feel like Instagram is definitely the place to kind of have people let people have a glimpse into kind of the back workings of your company, right? So
Yeah.
kind of the daily life of um, X, right?
Yeah.
Into the company. Um, like you say, I mean, make it more approachable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Less polished. I mean, that's definitely the place to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Instagram, right? Did
Yeah.
I say
Yeah.
it right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a do-it-yourself mentality, I think, on Instagram, where people are almost accepting non-perfect perfection
yeah,
with ads and everything. Where it can be more like if you think of something quick on the spot and you want to say it, you say it, get your point across, tag what you got to tag, and nobody cares if it glitched out or if it's not great color or anything.
yeah,
It's a weird time, especially since COVID. If you watch anything on TV or anything, how they're doing things, a lot of Zoom calls, even on multi-million dollar
yeah,
productions, and you got all this great pizzazz or like all this
yeah,
greatness around like choppy Zoom
yeah,
calls,
yeah.
and it's
Artifacts like big front and center. Yeah,
yeah, and then it's like it like sound like I use the example like I don't know if you ever watched Wayne's World, the movie Wayne's World, but when they're going through a drive-through and it's like they're trying to trick the drive-through, and they're
yeah,
like
yeah.
I want I then that's literally what some of these professional like shows on like NBC, Fox, they're cutting out like that, and it blows my mind that that's
It is a different aesthetics that has evolved with cell phone cameras and all that stuff because um, it has kind of trickled down. Now it's trickling up, right?
yeah, yeah,
So to speak. I mean, when I started out, it was like unthinkable to have like an uncompressed image, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
not a compressed image. Now everything had to be uncompressed and super high quality, even though it was just, PAL, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
NTSC
yeah,
in this case, for North America, low resolution, but it had to be like top-notch quality. You can't really scale up anything ever, right?
yeah, yeah.
So nowadays it's widely accepted to have also kind of a mix of all sorts of different qualities, images. It's a whole different aesthetics nowadays.
Yeah. It's a style. I feel like even bad quality is a style. Like 90s nostalgia's in a lot in like fashion, style of film. Obviously like they keep recycling things from the 80s and 90s for TV shows, movies that like you don't think weren't that long ago, but they're redoing them because and like many popular shows from the 90s have been brought back and shot in that same uh like grainier style, like where it's like not so polished and high def and like I mean we have what 8K abilities now I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But have you ever tried to? Obviously, you're working with large files in animation, right? But with people filming in 6K, 8K, how much storage you need is
Oh yeah,
insane.
absolutely.
So I can imagine
Especially
storage with an animation being like
they can ramp
insane.
up the frame rate too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the camera's got to be quick. Yeah, I mean, shooting in higher resolution also then enables them to reframe the shot, right?
yeah,
Um, oh yeah, it's I for the most part I work without camera, but I know a lot about them. I mean, because it also applies to 3D animation and 2D animation, or 2.5D animation rather, to know what the focal length is and all that stuff
yeah.
to create different types of shots. So sorry I segued
No,
it.
that's fine. That's fine. I love this conversation because I honestly don't know much anything about it, but I have a lot of interest in it. So like when I've talked to many different types of like business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff, and I always like talking to people that on subjects I don't know anything about, but also have a lot of interest in. So like it's cool hearing just the different levels. It's like the whole there's so many branches off of animation to you. Like you have the complete knowledge of it. To like I said, like a person like me, an outsider, animation is animation. Like I could tell you got worked up when it's like animation is not a genre, and there's people like that's completely understandable, but to the vast population,
Well, you were basically saying that. I just
yeah, yeah,
kind
yeah.
of spelled it out.
Yeah, yeah, and I know I understand that completely. That does make a lot of sense. I think they just kind of um, I don't know. It's that whole a lot of people look at animation as childish or whatever, like adults don't watch, but that's not true at all. Like I love watching cartoons. I know plenty of adults that love watching cartoons, love watching anything animated. And if you're watching movies, doesn't matter how much you don't think it's animated. Most movies have
Yeah.
some kind of animation involved.
Well, yeah, I spent a lot of time at film festivals too,
Yeah,
where you see a lot of, independent productions, short films, and animation is, yeah, not just cartoon.
yeah,
Animation can be very serious. Um, there's a lot of documentaries that resort to animation because when you have, let's say, a very serious documentary about, rape and murder and whatever else,
yeah,
right? War crimes. If you put actors in that, then it becomes very specific.
yeah,
If you have animated characters of any design, you know, it becomes very general, it becomes very approachable, and people can identify a lot more with it.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
becomes timeless in a sense.
Very true. I
So
think
this is another aspect of the animated media.
that's really cool. I never even thought of it that way. And I mean, it's probably, um, I don't know what the word is. It's just more accepting. It's really tough to watch things of the serious nature happening to either other humans, animals, whatever. Like people turn away. But if it's animated, it's just easier to like take in. I guess it's not. If you were to see like an animation of somebody like getting let's just say getting shot or something, it's a lot easier to see something animated getting shot than seeing a real human get shot or an animal get shot or anything get shot. That it's widely more accepted and less it's not that it's less moving because it's going to move you just as much, but it's not I think you'll have more audience. That makes sense. More people will turn it off if they saw something violent actually happening or something bad happening to uh, a physical, real presence than being able to like watch it as an animation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. It becomes um, more of an archetype, more of a more general. It's not like I say, it's not like that dog. It is basically all dogs.
yeah,
If it's an image,
yeah. It's better representation of everything and everyone than just like that one thing that you're attacking or that's happening to. I think nowadays, I think that's really, really crucial. um, People don't want to be attacked personally. Or imagine being that actor that's on like all those free like pexels.com, like those video shots of like people use for motivational videos and stuff,
like
and
stock
being
footage.
yeah stock
Yeah,
footage, and you're that stock footage of like a drug user or
yeah.
something, and you're constantly being used in all these different videos, and you're just like, I
Oh
just
yeah,
want to get away from that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because I see a lot of stock footage
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as people coming in here working on little startup projects, a lot of motivational speaking stuff use those
Yeah.
stock footage,
I was
right?
actually involved in editing job with only stock footage, and we had to be careful not to use any faces. Even though we
Mm,
pay for all the indemnification supposedly,
yeah,
lots and lots of dollars, but um, because if it's the topic is a little dicey, you don't want to
yeah,
risk that any one of those
backlash,
stock image providers are
especially if the
end up
stock
suing you.
stock video or stock image wasn't actually like it was you depicted it as something that wasn't. So like let's say it's like you're doing like I'll use the example of like drug users and stuff because I've seen a lot of like just that's what we've had some people come in here and it's a lot of like mental health stuff and it's
Yeah.
like people with drug addicted past. It's just like oh a guy walking through a tunnel just taking a nice walk but there's graffiti in the tunnel and now you're calling him a drug addict. And it's just like that's where it gets like does that person I thought I was just filming this me walking scene and now they're calling my mom sees me in this like drug
Yeah.
addict video or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
you got to also be careful with the graffiti in the picture because that you can get sued for publishing that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's something there's more and more to animation that you need to know there. I can know that from a music background. It's how it, it's kind of difficult with music nowadays because there's only so many keys you can play and chords you can play and notes you can play that so many artists think other artists are ripping them off, and it's just like
Oh yeah,
over time you're gonna get that recycled.
Katy Perry and stuff. There was
Yeah,
this case where they sued that artist that used a kind of similar
yeah. I know Vanilla
um,
Ice had it with the Rolling
line
Stones.
as in Dark Horse, you know,
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
completely ludicrous.
Yeah. I know that the Rolling Stones won the lawsuit against Vanilla Ice back in the 90s where it was Ice Ice Baby was um dun 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 and that was like and he's like no it wasn't that it's like you straight up ripped off Under Pressure that's Under
Yeah,
Pressure by the Rolling Stones and they won so I think anytime Vanilla Ice is played they get like royalties from it but it's constant like it's you have to watch out for that and not many people
Under
know that
Pressure was by Queen and David Bowie.
was it I'm a musician too, and I'm botching that. And- Why do I say Rolling Stones then? Okay, you caught me. But that's what it was. It was a lawsuit that whoever okay, that beat,
Yeah.
the Ice Ice Baby beat, was paid. They had to pay out when
Oh
he
yeah.
straight up said he didn't do it. He was like, I didn't rip anybody off, and it's like, it's the exact like if you
Yeah,
don't want it, it's the
exactly.
exact same. If you're
Right
gonna
thing. Just ask Shazam.
yeah. Only play that beginning of each song and see which one it says it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, are there any projects that you worked on that you just like you're super proud of? Like super like that you worked on from the past that you just like I you still promote to this day even if you're not working on it?
Um, some commercials that I
Yeah.
feature on the website, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, there's a question. Where can we find your website? What's your website that we can find some of your work at?
Spinanimation.com. So everything together, spin as in turn,
Yeah.
animation.com.
That's a tough one. No, that's awesome. Spin animation. If you looked it up on
Yeah.
Google, it'll probably be right near the top too, right?
You can also go to there with Piniel.com. That works too.
Yeah.
Or there in Canada.ch. CH is the Swiss,
Yeah.
first level domain. The in Canada means the one in Canada.
Yeah.
So recently got this URL as a joke, as a forwarding URL.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, spinanimation.com. There's an Instagram. There's I have a Facebook page, and I mean, it's so I update that
Yeah.
on a regular basis whenever I have new projects. But yeah, on the website there's a slider with the stuff that I'm most proud of.
Yeah. It's kind of like a almost like a booklet, like an artist booklet of stuff. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I'd love to see what you've done because that's a rich history of doing it. That 25 years you said, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I still have stuff that is like 15 years old on the website. I think, yeah,
yeah, cool.
or even older. But that still stands.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed a lot, but I mean, there's certain things like I'll go back and watch some things that were done in the early 2000s. Some of it's bad, but some of it's still like I don't know if they've gone back and kind of sprucing them up. Like you always hear about like when they re-releases of stuff where they like kind of like I know Disney. I think they fix a lot of their animations nowadays. If they're redoing it, they're putting like some filters to kind of
Yeah,
make it
politically correct.
yeah, oh, not even just make it look better. Because I mean, you're taking stuff that was shot for like 1970s, 1980s, or even like some of the 1990s cartoons. I think they've redone. They re-released The Lion King. It looks better. Like it looks better than it did back then.
You mean the 2D animation?
Yeah, yeah. I'm talking about not the new movie that they pumped out a few years ago. That one was I liked it, but I think it was controversial because yeah, it wasn't animated enough for people. Like it was animated, but
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't.
mean, I know there's this kind of misconception somehow. If it's not doesn't more real is better,
Yeah,
right? So as if they did a 2D cartoon because they they couldn't get animals to talk, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but in
I mean,
reality, they did that cartoon because it was the best way to them to
the
capture kids' imagination.
cartoon is exaggeration, right?
Yeah,
And it's fun. I mean,
yeah,
I remember having the blast going to the movies and watching a cartoon. It was totally on
yeah,
fire coming out of the theater, right?
yeah.
You know, also, you know, it has to be said, you know, the Warner Brothers, you know, Roadrunner and Coyote and all that stuff, you know, the 6, 7 minute shorts.
Yeah,
That's, you know, some of the funniest stuff that's out there, right?
yeah.
To this day.
And it's very politically incorrect. It's funny going back to these like main characters that are still around today, and how like you watch a Mickey Mouse cartoon from the 1930s,
Oh yeah,
1940s. This is insanely different, and same with Warner Brothers. Like definitely can get away with some of the stuff they used to do.
yeah. I mean, nowadays sometimes it's really stupid what they come up with standards.
Yeah,
You know, even when it just comes to plain violence, you can't show a character get hit by a train.
really.
No, because otherwise, you know, obviously, all the kids are gonna run out there and throw themselves in front of trains. You know,
That's so
you
silly.
can't have you can't have rope burn on a hand. You know, like open flame. You know, like it is in cartoon. It's exaggerated.
Yeah.
No,
That's weird. I
no, it
never
has
even.
to be cut out.
I see. You know all these laws that I would never know. Like
It
weird.
gets very political, and same thing with the uh, commercials. Obviously, I mean, I've been there. I've been doing hand-drawn animation for a company, for insurance company, Mobiliar in Switzerland.
Yeah.
They've been having this campaign for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It's really funny because the campaign builds on made up sketches that their clients sent them to explain what happened. You know, like a
Yeah.
little sketch. You know,
Yeah.
so I cut the bomb this way, but it fell that way. That sort
Yeah.
of thing, right?
Yeah.
The tree. Did I just speak German? So anyway,
That's a lot.
bomb is tree. Okay. Um, and yeah, I see how that. Yeah, you can't. They kind of cut out the fun out of some of those jokes because it couldn't be, you know, violent. It had to be sedated and politically correct, and you can't, you know, that the woman can get hit, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh, weird. Yeah, you never think of that. I always thought that there was like a freedom, like depending on when you were like things were aired, that you were allowed to do pretty much whatever you want. But I guess not. Like I think about it, I'm like, you can't get hit by a train, and I'm like, I've never seen anybody get hit by a train ever in my life in like in a movie or anything.
But
Or
you know, it happens in in the Warner Brothers cartoons, right? Carl
oh
Coyote is on the train
yeah,
tracks with in his little shack, you know. He
yeah,
opens the window, he sees the train coming, he just closes the window.
and that's what that's that whole argument of like it goes from anywhere from cartoons to video games to everything, that like they try to argue that kids are going to be playing these video games that are violent and then go and do that stuff in real life, and I don't think that's it depends on the kid. Like if they have mental health issues, yes, but that's anything, that literally can be anything that drives them to do something crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching Wile E. Coyote like blow up something in front of a train, or the Roadrunner causing the coyote to blow himself up, like
Yeah.
that. No kid's gonna be like, I'm gonna go chase a Roadrunner and blow myself up. It's not logical. I think it
Yeah, but the reason why they cut it out is obviously because they fear to get sued. If anything happens, doesn't have to be related, you know. They can just, you know, suppose it's traced back to,
yeah,
you know, they saw this 4 years and 15 days ago.
yeah. It was like that
And
person.
so
It was
it
the
wasn't
person who,
planted in their mind. Now
yeah.
they're not like zombies.
Well, I think it's changed a lot. It's the suing era, because you heard about the guy like years ago that sued Red Bull, right? Like literally their whole slogan was Red Bull gives you
Oh,
wings, and then he went and filmed himself jumping off his roof, and crashed to the ground after he had a Red Bull, and he broke like everything, his spine, all this stuff. Sued Red Bull. He won because he said they told me that it gave me wings. And now at the end of every Red Bull commercial, it says Red Bull doesn't actually give you wings; it just gives you more awareness. And it's like
Metaphorically speaking.
yeah, like okay, but there was either somebody who is either an idiot enough to think that they're legit saying that it gives you wings, or they're smart enough to
Yeah.
go against them and prove that they don't, and I'm going to get millions of dollars from you in a lawsuit. But really, you had to go and almost kill yourself to do it. So I don't know
If that's smart or not.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Anyway, yeah, it's but yeah, the USA is really big in suing, right?
Yeah,
Switzerland not so much, but yeah, it is kind of right. I mean,
yeah,
as far as I know, it is really kind of this mentality of the states that
yeah.
is somehow birthed this kind of suing mania, lawsuit
Suing
mania.
mania, and just almost like big companies that get sued just are like don't even care if it's real. It's like they'll just give the money away just to not have the headache of being
Yeah,
in these
yeah, in the
lawsuits.
press anymore, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah. And it's just like, well, now it's just getting scary with the whole cancel culture of everything, any kind of. It's just like I feel like companies, people, it's going to be so censored because they're scared of pissing anybody off. Like just, or they're going to go the exact opposite route and want to piss people off. I think it's. I think more people just need to allow freedom and allow people to do what they want, and if they don't like it, don't watch. But it's for some reason it's the opposite right now where you don't like it, people are watching exactly what they don't want to watch so they can bitch about it. Since it doesn't make sense. If I don't like something, I don't watch it. If I don't like horror movies, I don't watch horror movies.
mhm.
If I don't agree with a politician, I don't watch that politician. Plain and simple. And I think we're in this weird time where everybody feels like everything needs to be catered to them. Every
Yeah,
person
or
think
they're offended.
they're offended, and it's bad. I don't know how it is in Europe. I don't know if it's the same in Switzerland as it is here right now, because I know right here it's very
Prevalent.
prevalent. But
Yeah.
I think Europe, from what I understand, like any of my family that's still, actually I have family in Switzerland that's originally from Italy, and they're still more open to like was it self, like you're allowed to joke about not being perfect and joke about yourself and kind of like make fun of yourself. Right now, people can't make fun of themselves. They get so offended. They can't like feel lesser than anybody, if that makes sense. Like you
Mhm.
have to feel like you're on a pedestal and everybody's on a pedestal and needs to be praised for whatever they do in life. And they can never even have a joke about them. And it's not everybody, it's just the vocal people, right? The vocal people are
Yeah.
the ones that are going to make it a headache for everybody else. What can
Yeah.
you do? Yeah, but I know like you're working with European companies, you're working with Switzerland, so I don't know if the censorship here and there are the same.
No, definitely not. Um, no, I think it's not as dangerous in that sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, when I think about, you know, more like a bit of a self-censorship, maybe with companies when it comes to animation, that's what comes to mind when we talk about this. Um, that, some clients aren't daring enough to, put fresh ideas into their commercials. Um, yeah, it's always they like to go the tried and true route, the tag along kind of advertising.
yeah,
Um, Play it safe, so I want to. In any case, I guess it's getting better nowadays, but for the longest time didn't want to have some uh, cartoony ideas in the commercials.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
It has to be serious, otherwise they're not taken serious.
yeah. I think it's the opposite. I think people need that refreshing unseriousness now. I think they need.
Yeah,
It's almost like companies that are looked at as being super serious, like let's say insurance companies or
yeah,
something. Be the company that's not so serious, and you might actually stand out. the being different
Yeah.
stands out, in my opinion. If everybody's the same, why would they go to your company? Right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely something that ties into that. I mean, and yeah, I mean, it's maybe not that big of a difference here, to be honest.
Yeah.
I always find the most embarrassing commercials where you see some kind of somebody in a complete and utter frenzy about the product,
Yeah.
right? Like now they cuddle up with toilet paper and then they use so much of it,
Yeah.
a whole bathtub of this stuff,
Yeah.
um I don't know. And then I immediately, kind of in my mind, I pictured a sales meeting, So the creative agency comes to the client, So we have this concept and this concept. Oh, I like this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so predictable,
Yeah.
So as long as they have something that the client likes, right? So they're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
But is it good for the client? I don't know.
Nah, and the people making the decisions don't always know what's like, just kind of agree to things that like almost like the cookie cutter, just the safe, just go with this, just go with this. This has worked in the
Yeah.
past. This has worked in the past. When it's the people that are changing and doing things different and
Yeah.
captivating the audience.
Yeah. It's same thing with movies, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, sequel 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many can you churn out, right?
Yeah.
So because the production companies somehow think that people like this character works, so we're just gonna half redo this movie and then regurgitate all the jokes from the first movie.
Yeah.
People gonna love it.
No, it's a proven that some do well, some do really well,
Yeah.
but most of them don't. They don't. I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan.
Yeah.
The new Turtles movies were horrendous, and it's like it's that whole. I feel like you said something earlier about being scared of animation, like almost like the animated look. So many people are moving towards realism that being animated is almost like not good to them. Like the new Turtles movies, they wanted them to make them look like real turtles and kind of
It's
like
still animation, right?
yeah, it's still
But
animation.
they think that more realistic animation
Yeah.
is better than 2D animation.
Or even like just like cartoony looking, like
Toon
taking
shader, you mean?
yeah, like kind of making it look cartoony,
Yeah.
but putting it in like realness. You can
Yeah.
do that. Nintendo does that with all their video games. Like Nintendo is perfect, like known for doing that. Where they're adapting with times where video games are amazing how they look. They almost look more real than real in some of them. Like
Yeah.
they're just so vivid. And then you take games like Mario, Legend of Zelda, all these games from Nintendo that they will take a cartoony looking figure and then put it in scenery that looks absolutely stunning and real. And it works. The new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, same thing. They at first didn't because people don't like the way they animated Sonic. When they fixed that, mixing the two of like a really animated looking character
Yeah.
and real is works. So when you have the Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles, they wanted like, no, we have to make this dark, edgy, almost like Batman, like, and make these turtles look like real turtles, that like different kinds of turtles, and they look
They
like
move real slow.
yeah. And it just didn't captivate the audience when you were looking at the Ninja Turtles license. Like it was still selling like crazy, but it was all this old merchandise, like
Yeah.
things from like 90s looking.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to be said about movies where they mix live action and animation,
Yeah.
and I don't see much the point in that, because think about it. What does the animation gain from the live action part of the movie? Like Osmosis Jones,
Yeah.
or I mean nowadays, what's the latest one with? I haven't actually seen the Sonic the Hedgehog. Is that a live action?
Yeah, it's live action. It was
or
done. It did
What
well.
about the Pikachu?
Oh,
the
Detective
Pokemon?
Pikachu. Yeah.
Yeah. What does the animation gain from the live action? It's the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So there's so in that sense, the live action is kind of holding the animation back.
Yeah. I do understand that. Like, I'm a huge Pokemon guy, and like I love that movie, just because I think if you're ever going to do a live action Pokemon, it's not like you can go and get real Pokemon. So it's like, and I understand why they're doing it, because they're trying to, really what they're doing is taking kids that grew up in the 90s and now they're adults and trying to kind of like, instead of them going and watching Pokemon the cartoon again, they have this live action that they can watch with their kid and like enjoy it and not feel like they're watching Pokemon. It's like this live action movie. It was really well done. I kind of like them together, but I see where you're coming at. Like really, animation never holds back the live action. It's got to be the other way around, or it adds like, it's not like um, the animation is going to add greatly to that live action. The other way around, like it's not like you're gonna. What, Space Jam? I don't know if you.
Yeah.
That was a perfect example of both, right? But I think they did that really well to an extent. They're doing it again too. They're doing Space Jam 2 is coming out
Yeah.
with LeBron
And
James.
let's not forget Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Yeah,
by the great Rick Williams.
yeah, that was an
He
amazing
was,
movie.
yeah, he one of the greatest animator past, sadly, right?
Yeah,
A filmmaker. Yeah, that was again. I mean, amazing animation. I'm not so sure about the the live action part.
yeah,
It was kind of, it's like driving with the handbrake on or something.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine it's definitely something probably animators are passionate about. It's like their craft. They want it to stand alone, right? You want it to stand alone and not have to be put in with like keep them separate. Let the like live action movies do their thing and let us do our animation. And like you were talking about before, it's not just cartoons. Animation can look more real than real. Like I said, it can look just outstandingly.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I have to elaborate on what I said. I mean, people think that if it's looks more real, it's better, and yeah, sometimes it's totally justified to have like photorealistic, cartoon
yeah,
and characters and that sort of thing.
yeah,
Um, but I'm not saying I just want to. In my eyes, it's the new Lion King is not better than the old Lion King because it looks real.
yeah, yeah.
So the old Lion King was very well. Yeah, it was a cartoon that was really working very nicely.
Yeah,
I don't know why they had to reissue it,
yeah.
and
It's money. Plain and simple,
yeah,
it's money.
it's yeah. We were talking about the fresh ideas, right?
Yeah,
And the Trident, how they just think it can, work a second time around with
yeah,
the same, just uh, regurgitated.
yeah. And I mean, they're going to be
It's not
redoing
worth
all
it.
the major Disney movies now. They're like pretty much every major cartoon movie from the past is being remade. There, I know Little Mermaid's
But
being
people
remade.
buy it. People buy it.
It's the
So
nostalgia. Everybody, but then you're going to see so many complaints. The biggest complaint about the new Lion King was actually the realness of the lions. They're like they're not animated enough. They don't show emotion. It's like, well, people demanded realness, and then it came, and now what do you expect? Like all of a sudden, Simba has a big smile on his face, or like looking animated when you want like. How are you going to blend those two to
yeah,
make it look like a cartoon and look real and like amazing scenic Africa is what it's
yeah,
supposed to look like, and you have these real lions and that they're working with as well as computer animated, obviously. How are you gonna go and all of a sudden make them like
yeah.
do a dance or like sing and like it's not they
Would
don't
have
work.
been actually maybe a challenge to do the whole thing without dialogue. Realistic looking lions that don't talk.
Yeah,
Um, Animation is always that's always a big challenge for animation.
yeah,
Because then if you don't have any dialogue, like for instance in some great movies like Triplet de Belleville
yeah,
by Chomet, or again Rick Williams, The Thief and the Cobbler, the greatest movie that was never released. Look into it.
yeah.
It was an entire movie without dialogue.
Crazy.
Um,
So the
well,
actions are what's
actually, not the entire movie, but the main character has no dialogue. Large, like minutes and minutes and minutes without any dialogue. And so that movie has to be really animation driven. as
Yeah.
opposed to The Simpsons, where dialogue trip,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, they do things very mechanically. They don't express themselves,
Yeah.
with acting very much. So that would have been interesting to see, a Lion King movie
Yeah.
with realistic looking lions that is basically
Reenacting.
closer to, like a Disney animal documentary.
Yeah, and if they reenacted the entire story with real looking lines and no dialogue, I actually think it would be pretty good. I think it would be a pretty cool. It would seem like you're watching one of those like nature shows, but you could if you because they were using animation for that. You could, if you wanted to make it look real, just tell that story easily. I find with no words. If you like take a baby cub,
It would be hard to
you
do.
think it would be
It would be
hard?
really hard.
I maybe
To
it's because I know the
captivate.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And if you have, some voiceover, if you have some very yappy characters, it's always a crutch in terms of animation.
Yeah, yeah. It's cool to learn all this, man. I'd like to have you back and talk more about anything. I enjoyed the conversation with you. I am lacking in there in knowledge when it comes to animation, 100%. But I have so much respect for it. It's like huge. Like I'm a full grown adult that watches a ton of animated everything. Like I'm huge into anime. I'm huge into video games, and I gotta talk about Nintendo. I just like always had respect for all the work that goes into everything that I loved growing up, and I never grew out of it. I think that's what people, adults, have kind of been mistaken for a long time. That you hit a certain age and you have to grow out of like loves for certain things, and like you have to grow up. And I'm not ever gonna accept that. I'm gonna continue to watch what I like to watch and enjoy what I enjoy as an adult. So it's kind of nice going back and watching. We have a almost 3-year-old son, and like watching all these older cartoons compared to the new
Yeah.
ones that have been rehashed, and just seeing how much better they were back in the day when it was just like you can tell it was like people were. It was harder to make. It was harder
Yeah.
to make, and they put a lot of time and effort into it, and it still resonates to this day. And people are still watching like some cartoons from the '90s, and now they're redoing them, and they're just absolute. It's just, yeah, I don't like it. And watching the Ninja Turtles now, and then watching it, yeah, or like they're bringing back Animaniacs. I don't know if you know the Animaniacs. I think they're back now. DuckTales is back. I
Mm.
have all these cartoons. Darkwing Duck, I think, is coming back. All these different shows that were huge, and that they're bringing them back and doing things with the characters that I feel like it's how they're putting too much emphasis into the look and not into the actual dialogue behind it and the story behind it.
Mhm.
But we'll see where things go. I think yeah, it's fun. I appreciate what you do. I definitely would like to learn more. I'm gonna check out your website and check out some of the stuff you've done because I definitely am interested in what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the difference between Europe and here.
If the viewers like to ask me stuff or continue the conversation, they can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or simon@spinanimation.com and continue there.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll put up all your contacts and stuff. I put it in at the end of the interview too, where people can look it up and do it. We vocalized it, but sometimes people we
If
know.
you think the new Lion King is better than the old one, let's let's discuss it.
Yeah, I liked it. I can get into it. I liked it, but the old one's just so good that I didn't think it really needed it. We can talk about that forever, and I can continue just blabbering off. But I enjoy that. Like, I'd love to have you
It's a
on and
joke, yeah.
maybe just talk about different animated movies and things that you enjoy. I know.
I'm also, by the way, yeah, I mean, in that context, if people want to know more, I've also done some tutor work before, with what were they, grade 10 or something?
Yeah.
Students who had this school project. So
Well, yeah, I know it's high schools must have more and more, which is nice. Kind of these programs for these kinds of basically careers. When I was in high school, it was like basically videography and photography is where it stopped at. Like that's where you didn't really get much further than that when it comes to like kind of like niche tech things
Yeah.
or arts things. Now it's so nice that there's all these different like branches off, and
Yeah.
knowing that there's like animation courses for kids, because man,
Yeah, and everything's so attainable.
yeah,
I remember spending thousands and thousands of dollars for, the crappy SVHS-C camera and
yeah,
SVHS-C player, and actually an editing console that never really worked, just
yeah.
consumer grade. Nowadays you do it on your cell phone essentially.
Yeah, I
right?
know. I the same. I went to school for music production in 2007, and just like microphones, just all the equipment, how much more expensive it was even then. It's not that long ago,
Yeah.
13, 14
And
years.
worse.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like this microphone is a USB microphone. You don't need the
Yeah.
XLR microphones now, and for this is like considered like one of the top USB microphones. For the price it was, if you bought a XLR microphone, it's like a cheap XLR microphone, and just things get cheaper. Not necessarily like that they're bad, like they should actually not be as good, but it's scary how good they actually are, and how it's same with sound,
Yeah.
how
everything.
manual, like making a good sound somewhere with a microphone, like it's so much work now. It's like hit a filter. Now it's eliminating all background noise instead of having a sound engineer like sitting there all day trying to
Yeah,
manage
the
it, right?
software aspect comes into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with the cameras, by the way.
Yeah,
When it comes to the phone cameras,
yeah,
the software aspect is a big part of it too.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, technology is working. I mean, time has been working for us
yeah,
in that regard. It's everything's so attainable, and affordable, right?
yeah. It's awesome, because I think that's what's always scared people to try to go into those like those route like those
Oh, yeah,
careers.
I mean, it's crazy what those
Yeah, I know,
those professional equipment, what they spent on them. right?
Oh, it's insane. I went to music
And
production, man.
software is, even software. I mean, you can rent software now on a monthly basis. I mean, okay, I'm not really a fan of the ongoing paying, but it is great for entering into learning something new,
Yeah,
trying a new software, as opposed to spending sometimes $4,000 for a piece of software.
yeah. If you don't like it, too bad, right? Like that's when I went to school for music. It's exactly that. It's the amount of programs you're buying, all the equipment, everything, and by the time you're already paying your student loans, you're already doubling it in equipment in how much you owe, and you're just like, and then you're trying to get jobs in places, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, volunteer here, volunteer. It's like I have to pay for something. How do I volunteer? And that's it's a grind. So it's definitely nice to see now where it is so accessible and inexpensive for people like kids in high school that can kind of like see if they like something and try it out, and if they decide they don't like it, they aren't 100,000 in the hole. Like they can back out and be like, I tried, it wasn't for me. I spent a couple grand or something. Like it's not. It's a different time, and I am envious of those kids, because it's a lot easier to kind of try different things and grasp to what you really like. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. We talked for a while, and I would like to talk to you again in the future. Everybody check out his website. What was it again?
Spinanimation.com.
Yeah.
Hit me up, Simon at spinanimation.com, or on Instagram, it's spinanimation.
Cool.
With is it all together on underscore, one of the two.
Yeah,
Facebook
I'll
page.
figure it out.
Find me on Facebook as well. All right.
Cool, guys. Thanks for watching another episode of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Arboit. He's Simon Piniel.
That's right.
Yeah. And
P-N-I-L.
check out Spin Animation. You can tell he knows what he's talking about. Check out all the work he's done in the past and what he's currently working on. Thanks again. Have a good one.
Cheers.